Hello, I'm Matthew Gavidia. Today in the MGH Life Sciences and Medical World News, the Center for Biosimilars is pleased to welcome Dr. Nancy Globus, Vice President of Regulatory Affairs at the Accreditation Council for Medical Affairs, or ACMA. Can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your current role with the ACMA?
Sure. I'm a pharmacist by trade, and I've spent the last almost 20 years working with the industry to prevent medication errors and to build safety and error prevention into their products. And you may wonder what that entails, and it's mostly evaluation of names to prevent name confusion, look-alike, sound-alike errors, and also label and product design evaluation. So it's very much a lot of the things that the safety group at FDA does, the DMEPA group. I provide those services for pharmaceutical company clients.
Can you explain what a biosimilar name suffix is and your role in helping companies choose these suffixes and their brand names?
Sure. So a biosimilar suffix is a four-letter string, lowercase letters that should be meaningless, and they're attached to the non-proprietary or proper name for the product. So if we were talking about small molecules, it would be the generic name. But since these aren't generics, they're biologics, it's the non-proprietary or proper name. And the reason for having a suffix to distinguish the product is because biosimilar products need to be grouped together to avoid product selection errors. So we need to know, okay, it's infliximab, for instance, but which infliximab product is it? So they need to be grouped together, but still distinct, so adverse events and any post-marketing safety signals can be tracked.
Suffixes for biosimilars have been somewhat controversial. What is the importance of suffixes when it comes to accurate prescribing and pharmacovigilance?
So again, it's really for accurate prescribing, it's making sure that the products are grouped together but still distinct, and that they can be tracked accurately from a not only an error standpoint but also the tracking of adverse events.
Can you explain why there has been opposition to adding suffixes to biosimilar names?
You know, it's really interesting because it depends on whose perspective you're looking at. So the patient advocacy groups just wanted to cut out the red tape and increase patient access to the products. The innovator companies want to maintain their patent exclusivity, and then the biosimilar companies want their products to be viewed as clinically the same, which they are. So everybody's got a different piece of the pie and a different stake in the procedure.
The FDA has gone through a certain amount of evolution in its thinking on how suffixes should be applied to biosimilars, originator products, and interchangeable biosimilars as well. Can you take us through the history from the US regulatory standpoint?
Sure. So in August of 2015, a draft guidance was introduced by FDA, and that draft guidance sort of set the framework for what a biosimilar suffix should be and what it should not be. So it should be 4 letters, should be meaningless, should not cause any additional confusion, etc. Also in that guidance, they stated that they were going to retrospectively add these 4-letter suffixes to innovator biologics that have already been on the market. And that was really what caused most of the controversy. And so that decision was, so the draft guidance came out in August of 2015. It was finalized in January of 2017. Meanwhile, in the background, biosimilar products are getting approved without a firm decision on what the naming framework is going to be. So then controversy still continued, and the biggest issue was applying suffixes retrospectively. And again, pressure from patient groups, pressure from payers, pressure from different sectors of the industry, all playing into this. And so then in March of 2019, they sort of reversed that decision and said that suffixes were not going to be applied retrospectively, but new biologic products, so new innovator products that were being approved, would have a suffix, as well as biosimilars, but not originator biologics that were already on the market. And that was in March of 2019.
And to build on top of that, as you just alluded to, that since the March 2019 guidance from FDA, things appear to be changing yet again. Can you speak more on this, and then what some implications might be?
So I think the biggest change since then has been in March of this year, of 2020, that marked the end of a 10-year transition period where some biologic products, such as insulins and some hormones like growth hormones, were being transitioned from a drug regulatory pathway to a biologic regulatory pathway. And so also suffixes were not applied retrospectively to those transition products, but new products that are being approved, that were typically transition products, would have a suffix attached. And we saw this as evidenced in the approval just recently of Lilly's Lyumjev, is an insulin product that has a 4-letter suffix attached to it, to the non-proprietary name.
How well do you think the current guidance and policy on suffixes fits with the industry and medical needs?
I think it's good. I think with all of that back and forth and negotiation, I think everybody got something out of it. I think it's a good balance, and the innovators were able to not have to apply suffixes retrospectively, and it does provide a good framework, not only for identifying products and preventing product selection errors, but also for tracking from a drug safety and pharmacovigilance aspect.
How about the direction things appear to be going now?
I think one thing that I would like to see, and it's definitely being worked on, is just an increased awareness of what the regulations are, and just as people become more familiar with biosimilars and access to them, and just uptake and acceptance of the concept as a whole. But and especially like on the industry side, if someone hasn't gone through a branding and naming exercise in the past, there's a lot of nuances there. And so I think an awareness of what the regulations are is going to drive along with the changes. And I think that the first biosimilar that was approved with the suffix that was indicative of the license holder, that SNDZ1 for Zarzio, I think that one still sticks in people's minds, and they say, oh, well, why can't I have one like this? Or why can't I have one that suggests that? It's a non-proprietary name. It's not supposed to be suggestive of anything. And likewise, it also can't be confused with anything. You know, we certainly don't want the addition of that 4-letter suffix to be confused with any other abbreviation that's used in the prescribing of the drugs. And that's really, you know, that's what I do. That's being a medication error prevention expert. That's, you know, looking at where those errors happen, and how they happen and how we can avoid them.